Hello everybody and welcome back to another video about Mod 18 that is coming out in a month and 6 days. So still quite a ways away. But today I'm just going to focus on the campaign, going to look at the campaign store a little bit, and then we're just going to look at the new gear that's available for you to get from either seals or seals, you know. So the Avernus campaign is going to look pretty familiar to you, or at least it should, because it has the same weekly haul format that we saw in mods 12, 13, and 14. So that was Chult, Omu, and Ravenloft. And I actually really like this layout, even more so now because I am a lot more busy now. So I have a lot less time to play. So the fact that I have less time to play means I can't, come on and do dailies every day. So with this, I can just do them all on one day, usually on Sunday, and then I'm good to go. But yeah, you have campaign tasks. Each time you complete one, you get the 25 increased family crests, and then a new weekly quest as well, I believe. And once you're done with that, you can start spending the points on boons. This is different to Ravenloft because in Ravenloft, you were able to buy the boons right from the start if you wanted. Same thing with Chult, same thing with pretty much every campaign except for Cloaked Ascendancy. All the boons were available from the beginning, or at least in staggered amounts throughout the campaign. But in Avernus, the boons are locked until you have completed the main campaign. So you can see the path goes, and then you have the dungeon that you can unlock and get a key for, and then you have the boons. Now, the thing that has had people questioning things is there's no mention here of how many boons you're able to get from the campaign. So naturally you would assume that you can only get like 4 because that's what's, in most of the campaigns only have like 4, or there's a couple that have more than 4, but generally you can only get 4 boons per campaign. So there's not even a total boon points available thing. Like if it said like you have 68 out of 80, I mean, I know there's not 80, there's only 74. But if it said like out of 80, you would say, oh, you can get 10 boon points from this, which is not going to be a thing, probably. Because if you could get an unlimited number of boons from this, or at least if you can get up until your max number of boons from this, people are going to be grinding the Avernus campaign instead of going back to the older zones to get those boon points. But I really don't think that is something that they are going to want people to do, so I do think that there's going to be a limit on this, but like I said, we don't know what it is, but I'm going to assume for right now that it's 4. If it's more than 4, then of course I will update that in a later video. Now, the campaign store has 5 things in it, plus some gear, and I will explain this in a minute, but the first thing is diluted holy water, which to me, if you read it, it does some damage to nearby enemies, and you can upgrade it to do more damage. I think I have one in my inventory that I was looking at. Yeah, you refine it. It costs 100 chaotic writings, and then some charred remains, holy symbol, and tainted water, which I do not know where you get these from, but there is a lot of devils in the dungeon. I don't know where the fallen paladin would be from. And the Fallen Stronghold's Tainted Water sounds like something that could be obtained from the Stronghold map. So I don't know if one piece is going to be obtainable from like different places like the dungeon, the map, and whatever the third one is. So there is a hidden vendor at the very top of the Stronghold, which to get to, you have to go all the way around the back of the Stronghold and parkour kind of up this rocky staircase looking thing. And then once you finally get up here, you can see that there's kind of a path laid out where you can start from here, go up here. There's a way you can climb on the chain to get up here. Then you can climb up this rock here, go up all the way around, all the way through, and then there you are, right here. So in this vendor is Juma's surprise bag, which contains the 3 pieces of gear that I mentioned in the antiquities section. And you can also get a vanity pet as well. I don't know what the vanity pet is. I don't have enough things to buy one, but the Fallen Stronghold's Tainted Water is also up here. So that's used to refine the diluted holy water. It's one of the 3 regions here. So I'm assuming that this one is going to be the one that's from the Stronghold map. This one can be from the dungeon, and I don't know about this one. Maybe it's something to do with the Glyphworks quests, but that is what's up here, if you manage to climb your way up here. But once you upgrade it, it does more damage. It actually kills all the minions and stuns the enemies for 5 seconds, and then it reduces the boss damage by 10% for 10 seconds. So you could throw this at Hallister, and he'll do 10% less damage for 10 seconds, which is actually very good. If you look at the Armored Griffin mount power, which is something that's very desired for Tom, that reduces the enemy's damage dealt by 10%, I believe. Oh, sorry, the Armored Griffin reduces the damage the enemies deal by 15% for 10 seconds. So it's basically like having a slightly weaker version of a legendary mount power on a trinket, I believe. Yeah, those are called trinkets. Does it say what the cooldown is? 2 minutes. Okay, so it's double the time of what a mount power would be, but still seems very good. But anyway, the only other stuff that's in this campaign store is a couple fashion outfits, which I showed briefly in the last video. I don't really like them because I don't like outfits that are distinctly female, like with dresses and stuff. I don't like that. I like to look powerful with my characters, and I don't feel like wearing a dress makes me look powerful. All right, now we have the actual Lion's Guard gear, which is the best gear that exists. The 1250 item level. So I'll just show you what it looks like. I'll equip one of each piece. So it looks pretty similar to, kind of looks like the primal gear, but with different colors and a little bit of a different design. But the structure of like the frills and stuff looks kind of similar, and not really a fan of that either. But there is some other sets that look better. Now the bonuses on these are good depending on how you look at it. The helmet one is going to be great for healers because when your stamina is over 75%, you get 5,000 power, which that should be most of the time, especially if you have the Elven Battle armor enchantment and then the Gladiator's mount bonus. Your stamina will regenerate a lot faster, which will keep you over that 75% stamina for longer. And it also has 1,200 more power than the helmet I'm currently wearing, and like 5,000 more hit points, which is nice. So these cost the chaotic writings, and then also some of these extra pieces down here. We have the Fire of the Pit Fiend, Hellfire Engine paneling, Hellforged chain, and Bone Devil Spur. And all 4 of these drop from the bosses of the new dungeon, the Infernal Citadel. After you defeat the boss, they just fall on the floor, and then somebody picks them up, and you roll for them. So it's only a certain amount per group. But from what I have seen, I think they all drop in a dungeon run. Because we defeated, on the test server, we defeated the first boss, and we got 2 pieces. We got the Bone Devil Spur, and then I think it was the Hellforged chain, because that's right after the Hall of Chains, so that would make sense. The Hellfire Engine paneling is the final boss, the Hellfire Engine, and then the Fire of the Pit Fiend is the second boss. I forget his name, but the first boss's name is Morzok. I forget the second boss's name, but he's a big pit fiend, and he's super annoying. The arena in there is super annoying. But anyway, you need a certain number of each one of those pieces to get the specific gear. So for the helmet that I want, I will need 3. I would have to beat the second boss 3 times and then win the roll for this piece. And then also 250 chaotic writings, which those are pretty easy to get. Now, the chest piece bonus, I don't like that much. Like, I can see why you would want it, but there's a lot of ones that are better than that. So whenever you critically strike, you have a 10% chance to get 5% of your max HP back. The only place where I could see that actually being used is for a tank, and only in a difficult environment. Places where the healer is not able to keep up, pretty much. Other than that, I don't really see a use for that, especially with either having armor penetration or deflection on it. The stats there, armor penetration is easy enough to get from other sources, and deflection is not as useful as it used to be. So I don't really know very many people who are actually looking to cap deflection. Having max deflection is pretty nice, but it comes at a cost because it's harder to get, I feel, than the other defensive stats. Now, the arms are pretty good for DPS. You gain 250 power every time you hit an enemy, but you lose a stack of 250 power whenever you're struck. It stacks 20 times, so 20 times 250 is like 5,000? Yeah, it's 5,000. So you can get 5,000 extra power from these arms, plus the 6,000 that's already on there. So assuming that you have maximum stacks, you'll have 11,000 power there. But these gloves are only going to be useful versus bosses or enemies that don't die very quickly, because you can imagine whenever you go fight trash mobs that the enemies are going to die within a few seconds. You're not really going to get more than a handful of stacks there. So these will be good in bosses, I think, whereas in regular trash areas, another pair of gloves might be better. And then lastly, we have the boots, which is not super impressive. The 300 power for each enemy you're engaged in battle with. That's the same bonus that we've had on boots for a couple mods, and it's not really that impressive. I'd rather wear something else, like for DPS, Heals of Fury. For healers, it really does. I mean, you could wear those for a healer, but lately I've been wearing the Trapper of the Twilight boots, because if you're trying to speedrun something, or Tales of Old in particular, this was really useful. 2.5% movement speed for each enemy you're engaged in battle with, so I would just run through all the enemies and I'd be super fast, zoom to the boss, and that's how we did Tales of Old. Okay, now that I've talked about that gear, let's talk about the Infernal Forged gear, which looks very awfully familiar to the Black Ice gear, just with different colors. Now, I really like these colors. I don't really want to complain about it, but it is the same texture, and that kind of sucks. But look at it, though. It is the same as the Black Ice gear. I've worn this before. My Paladin wears the Black Ice gear. And I really love black and gold together. Red, black, and gold is my favorite color combination. I use it on, I'm sure you've seen my cleric. I wear those colors all the time. But let's look at what the actual bonuses are to see if it's actually worth using. Now, this is 1200 item level gear, so slightly worse item level than the Lion Guard's armor, but this gear is bought with seals. Seals of the Fallen, which comes from the dungeon. So you buy this gear with seals from the dungeon, and then the other gear you get with the boss drops from the dungeon, which is kind of different. This means you have 2 sets of armor that come from the dungeon. So for the helmet, whenever you deal combat advantage damage, you have a 10% chance to gain 5,000 power, which is not really that great, because you could just have either the over 75% stamina flat 5,000 power, which will happen a lot more often, or you could have, depending on what content you're running, you could wear like the Protégé helmet, which is 5% more damage in Undermountain. Alright, now the chest piece is really only something that tanks would use again, so 1,000 defense for each player on your team, but then also defense is really easy to cap, so I don't see this being used at all, unless you're trying to cap defense in PvP, I guess. Now, the arms are very bad. Whenever you deflect an attack, you gain 1,000 power for 10 seconds. Now, this is assuming that you're going to stack deflection. But the problem with that is the maximum deflect chance is only 50%, so even if you sacrifice all those other stats to get the deflection that you need to have the 50% deflect chance, you're only going to gain 1,000 power 50% of the time, and it only lasts for 10 seconds. So at that rate, you're better off having the bonus damage or the Lion's Guard ones, because the Lion's Guard ones will give you power each time you hit an enemy, which will happen a lot more often than when you deflect an attack. So really the only reason to wear these would be as a stepping stone until you get the Lion's Guard ones, assuming you're able to complete the dungeon at all. And the dungeon is not that difficult, by the way. It has higher stats than Tom, but that is really not representative of the difficulty. It's just the stat ratings of the enemies, and that's it. The real difficulty in Tom lies within the mechanics, and that is how, like, at least 80% of people die. It is actually probably higher than that. Like 95% of deaths come from mechanics-based errors. That is where the difficulty in Tom is. The dungeon is not that hard. Okay, now that I'm back to the main topic, the boots. Very bad bonus. Every 5 seconds you're in combat, you gain 200 power. So that's only a max of 1,000 power, and you can have more power than that for just wearing the boots that give you power based on how many enemies you're in combat with. Or you could wear the Heals of Fury for more damage. Not that great. However, there are new shirts and pants. Now, I really like this shirt bonus, but I don't know if I would prefer it over having the encounter one. So a lot of the shirt that most people are wearing now gives you a chance to reduce your encounter power cooldowns whenever you crit, but these shirts, whenever you damage or heal your target for more than 15% of your max HP, you gain 1% action points, but it still has the cooldown of 5 seconds. So first of all, it has a lot more stats, and I really like the bonus. But I think it kind of depends on how encounter-based you are. So like, for a healer who uses divinity-based encounters, or for warlocks, the soul spark-based encounters, these are going to be pretty good because you're not relying as much on encounter cooldowns. You'll just get more action points, and action points are good. So this shirt is one that I do really like. Now, the pants, I think there are some people who PvP who will really like these, but I don't think it's better than the action points pants. Because all it does is give you 5% movement speed for 10 seconds whenever you're damaged for more than 15% of your max HP. So I do think the action point pants are going to be better. The only thing these have going for them is the extra stats. Okay, now we also have a new artifact set, which I'm sure you've seen people talking about how it's, oh, this sucks. The whole set bonus gives you 5%, flat 5% more damage to demons, devils, and fiends, which is pretty much all the enemies that are presented to you in this mod. And also, if you did not know, the Orcus set was nerfed. Instead of being 20% additional damage, it is now only 10%, which it needed to be nerfed because this has been the best set to have for like 10 mods. And that's like 3 years. With all these other sets released after that, nothing can beat that. So it was time to have a new one. But the problem that a lot of people are having with that is this isn't good anymore, but you're not offering me any good alternatives. I don't really have a comment for that. People will adapt, and that's just how it's gonna work. It's not going to kill you that much. Let's have a look at the mythic variant of that. It will give you 3,000 power, 1,500 armor pen, and 1,500 deflection. And when you use the artifact, it will reduce your cooldowns by 2 seconds, which probably stacks with the Artificer's Persuasion, slows the nearby enemies, and then your at-will powers will get a random effect. So you'll either get damage resistance that stacks 6 times, decreasing the target's damage, stacking 6 times, or decrease the damage resistance of your targets. Obviously, the best one here is going to be Savagery because you're able to do more damage, but I probably would never use this as my primary artifact just because I'd rather use an artifact that gives me a guaranteed damage bonus instead of one that's only a third of a chance. Now, moving on to the antiquities section, this is probably my favorite section of any mod because it is so many different random pieces of armor that sometimes will end up being better. Like this one is the best looking piece that exists in mod 18, I think. I'm going to get one just so that I can look evil whenever I need to. Just press a button and bam, evil silver is here. The bonuses on these are okay. Some of them are pretty good. One of them is going to be super, super annoying for healers, but best in slot for DPS. And I will get to that in a minute. These all have item level 1225, which is right in the middle of the Infernal whatever set, and then the Lion's Guard set. So I'm only going to talk about the ones that are actually noteworthy, because some of them have the same bonuses as previous gear, and it's just not even worth looking at. The Shielded Defender Vambraces is something that I think maybe... actually, I don't even know. I was going to say maybe a DPS tank will try to take, because you only get damage whenever you're hit. But whenever you hit something, you consume the stacks and instead gain damage resistance. So it's like you get damage, then damage resistance, then damage resistance. But I don't think it's gonna really be worth it, because you have to wait to be hit 5 times to get the 5% damage. I also don't understand how that works, because you're gaining damage when you're struck, but whenever you strike an enemy, which is when you would be using that bonus damage, the stacks go away. I'm assuming they last for like 10 seconds or something. But that's not said here, so that doesn't really make much sense. And then there's the opposite of that, the Spike Defender Vambraces, where you gain damage resistance whenever you hit enemies, and then whenever you get hit, you gain % damages. I think this one is better, because you can just hit an enemy 5 times, get in front of the tank, and then you'll have 5% damage for 10 seconds. I think that one might actually, it's going to be less annoying. Having these with the boots that are, I'm just going to talk about the super annoying boots right now. These Rusted Iron Leggings, you get a flat 5% damage bonus, but you have minus 50% incoming healing. So if you have max tacticals enchantments in all 5 of your utility slots, that is only 30% bonus incoming healing, I think. This is taking away 50%. So every heal that I'm giving you, if every heal that I'm giving you is cut in half, I'm gonna be super annoyed. Super annoying. It's gonna really mess with my heal numbers, because those make me feel good inside, even though they're basically useless. And then people are going to complain even more that they're dying when they literally are wearing something that is cutting their heals in half. Now, as far as where you get all this stuff, I do not actually know what rare monster oddments means. Now, I haven't played through the entire campaign. There are some people in the test who have played through most of the campaign who will probably know that. I didn't have the opportunity to do that, but in previous mods, the antiquities has been like expeditions or hunts, something like that. So it'll probably be something similar. That, or I did hear some people were getting these from the heroic encounters in test. So it's possible that you can get them from the BHEs, but I have not verified this on preview. And then there's also some that you get from a Juma's surprise bag. Now, this chest piece is also another risky one. There's a lot of risk involved with the gear in this mod, I think. So whenever you damage a target, you gain a stack of Reckless Brutality, which increases your power, but also increases your damage taken. So this is a maximum of 5,000 power that you can get, but then you also will take 10% more damage. Now, if you're wearing this along with the minus 50% incoming healing ones, and then you complain that you're dying, you deserve to die. That's just all there is to it. There's another risky piece we got here, the Barbed Cultist Greaves. Whenever you crit, you have a 10% chance to reduce your maximum hit points by 20% and gain 3% damage. Now, these are not as good as the annoying ones that I just talked about, the flat 5% damage, but still super annoying and super risky. I'm just going to talk about this one because it's really dumb. Whenever you kill an enemy, there's a 20% chance you will teleport to a nearby enemy every 10 seconds. So you kill something and then poof, you're somewhere else, poof. I mean, to be honest, most of the time all the enemies are in the same area, so it's not going to be that effective, but just imagining 5 people using this and imagining that it could happen constantly is a pretty funny image. And then that is about it for the stuff that I find important to talk about. So that is going to be all I have for you today. I talked a lot longer than I thought I did. Hopefully this video is not too long. So thank you all for watching. Please give me your thumb if you like the video so that I can add it to my thumb collection. Also, remember to join my Discord so that you can enter the giveaways and stuff, because Christmas is almost here. And in case you didn't hear or didn't know, around Christmas, I'm going to be doing a big giveaway. And you probably want to enter that because it's free stuff. Okay, bye.